Okay, so welcome everyone. Nice to have you here. So welcome to everyone on SoundCloud who's listening to this. And today we have a question from Peter. That's one question with A, B, C, D, E. With E points. Okay. So the first question is, how should I treat needs, emotions, and urges such as the following? Okay, so he goes and lists them. A. My mind wanders off to the future where I try to convince my dad that mindfulness is the right path, that I was right and I was acting with integrity and honesty towards him. I think I just want him to give me unconditional love and to be proud of me, in brackets, which will never happen as he has been diagnosed by various psychologists with narcissistic personality disorder and will not seek treatment. A lot of anger and sadness occurs as I am treated not in line with the way I have acted, and my integrity is questioned towards a lot of people. Okay. Maybe I just read through the whole thing first. B. Sometimes I feel that I must hurry whilst there is absolutely no need. I have made a plan in my head and want to follow it. Or there is no plan whatsoever. I know where this feeling comes from. My dad was very impatient when I was a child and could get very irritated and angry if I did and do not hurry or act along his time schedule. C. My mind wanders off into the future and I have conversations with friends and relatives on mindfulness. During these conversations, I try to convince them to read into mindfulness as well. I furthermore tell them your teachings. This gives me, in brackets, or my ego, a good feeling, but it keeps me out of the present. D. My mind wanders off to the future and I'm seeking confirmation and acknowledgement. Or E. My mind wanders off to the future where I'm afraid that my dad will enact the mortgage he has on my home. This is not an unrealistic scenario, but it is not relevant of this moment. Feelings of fear and anger appear. Okay. So maybe to just summarize the problem, make it a little bit more easy. It just appears that Peter's mind is wandering off into the future and the past. So basically there is a conflict arising, isn't there? And the conflict is with this moment, with now, with your life. So, and this conflict is always expressed as a form of suffering. As soon as you're not present, you're not aligned. You can say your body is here, your senses are functioning. So you're hearing, you're seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking, it's all working. Yet when we get attached to thinking, to future making, to past making, then there is a pull away from what is happening right now. For the sake of what? Why does this pull happen? Why are we pulled into scenarios like what might happen or what did happen? We are pulled because we are fundamentally, can you say, the ego, the sense of self is threatened by the emptiness of this moment. It is threatened by its death. You can say ego needs to stay alive. And the way for ego to stay alive is by using stories, by using emotion. And it latches on to absolutely everything that arises in the mind or around us to kind of reconfirm its identity. Like, I am here. I have a problem. It's really important for the sense of self, because if there is no problem, what could the self latch onto? And how could it survive? If you would, for example, discover right now that there fundamentally is no problem apart from believing in your thoughts, that the universe is just fine, then that's the death of self in that moment. And the self, the ego, it cannot tolerate that. It doesn't want to die. It doesn't want to just fade into non-existence. It wants to stay alive. And for some people it stays alive by focusing on problems. And problems are, of course, always a future and past creation. Apart from future and past, there is no problem. The mind cannot create a problem in the present moment. And by the way, if I'm talking about the present moment, I'm not talking about the general kind of now. Like now there is meditation class and it's going on for about an hour. I don't mean that. When I talk about the present moment, I mean the immediate moment right now. This breath. In, and as it's done, it's done. It's gone. Then there is the out-breath. And the out-breath has many moments, many parts. And to stay present with each moment, that's what I mean when I say being fully here, being fully present, being fully available, you can say, as a witness to life. So this is the training which counteracts the mind wandering off into future and past continuously. So it requires a certain training. We need to train the mind to actually come back to what is real. As the mind loves to get lost in its stories of what was and what will be. And it very often seeks to identify itself based on what was or what will be. So it feels almost like I am who I was, or I am what I did, or I am what others did to me. That's how it feels like, doesn't it? Like my dad treated me a certain way, and that's the state of mind that I'm going into right now. And then I feel resentful, I suffer my thoughts. And if it wasn't for those thoughts, there would be no problem. Like my dad did this and my dad did that, and because my dad did this and that, I am right now forced to suffer. That's the agenda of the self, isn't it? I have to suffer, and my suffering is absolutely righteous in itself. It is completely necessary for me to suffer through this because, and then I list all these reasons why. A, B, C, D, E. Here's why I must suffer right now and why I cannot let go from my pain, of my pain. Reason A, because something has been done to me. Reason B, I repeat doing something to others. All that is time, you see, something has been done to me, that past. And I'm afraid that I will continue to, again, time. I can tell you that all these questions, they are time bound, they're time related. None of them could survive presence. None of those questions. They would all just be revealed as what they really are, thinking. The Buddha, for example, has encouraged us to look into the truth of all phenomena, to understand properly what is as it is. And so what is this? It is thinking. And if you latch onto it, if you identify with it, the sense of self stays alive. And if it is a problematic self or a happy self, it doesn't matter. Important is it stays alive for a little more. It's really twisted. It's really madness. But that's what we all keep doing continuously. We keep staying in a state of suffering, sometimes we feel really righteous about it. We feel like, yes, I must suffer, it is important for me. Or we disguise that. We don't say I must suffer, but we say things like, but I have to do this, and I can't just sit around and do nothing and all that kind of thing. Basically, we say, I'm not ready to just go beyond suffering just yet. I still need to suffer a little more. In this way and in that way, and there's some more hoping and some more fearing the future. Will it be the same always? Will it always be like this? Will I always be like this? So you can stay alive for a little longer, worrying about whether you always will be like this or not. And if we miss the point, it means we are missing the point that this is just thinking. We don't see it's just thinking. Like you're not seeing that it's just a movie when you're watching a good movie. The actors are paid to deceive you into believing that you're actually watching real occurrences. So we react with real emotions. Because for a moment you forget you're watching a movie. Then the whole thing works. At nighttime, for various amounts of times, you basically forget that you are dreaming. That's why the dreaming works. And during the daytime, various amounts of time, we forget that we are already here. So we think that we are going somewhere and that we are coming from somewhere and that we need to get somewhere and so forth. That's the illusion of mind. It's a mind-created illusion. And you can use it as a tool, or you can be used by it. And most people are helplessly lost in it. They don't realize that they're trapped in their own cyclic mind, which is turning around itself again and again. And you look day in, day out, it's the same stories going on in your mind, basically just different words, but the same kind of story, isn't it? Like, I suffer because, and hopefully I will, and if I didn't, then I would. It's the same stuff for all of us. And if you keep believing in this, if you keep buying into this, it has a lot of power over you. You cannot use it as a tool. You can use thinking as a tool, of course, but for most people that's way beyond their capacity, because there is no mindfulness, there is no seeing, there is no knowing quality established as their center. Basically, you can say you have no center, or you don't know who you really are, so you believe your mind. It's almost like a substitute. Your mind tells you who you are, and it's kind of, you don't have to do any work. You just believe the chatter in your head, and then identify with that. And then that's that. It's very comfortable, it's very convenient, but it's a lot of stress. But as I said before, that's kind of what the ego wants. I am the stressed one. Here's why. And the entire building, the entire prison of the mind starts to collapse when you come into what is real, when you just simply look at truth. So what is it right now that is true? Again, I've been pointing to this many times. There are sounds. There are smells. There are sights. There's taste. And there are thoughts. You have all these six senses, right? You have hearing, seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. And you can latch on to any of them. This is called identification. You can get hooked by any of them. They can act like a bait almost for the mind. They can become a bait for this sense of self that needs to stay alive. Let's say you can identify with sounds. Like someone yells at me. And you don't realize it's just sound. But it becomes personal sound. and then transfer it into personal suffering. So you start to suffer the sound. And then in our complete absence of wakefulness, of mindfulness, we then react habitually and keep that whole thing turning around. Then we yell back. All because there is no mindfulness. So since we yell back, there are further things that need to come back to us then again. There will be answers again. Also probably yelled answers. And if you wake up in that moment, if there is some mindfulness, you will suddenly see that, wow, I'm attaching to pain right now, and it is not necessary for me to do this. Other people are free to yell. They can yell as much as they want to. They yell because they are in a state where they do not see themselves, so yelling is kind of necessary in that moment. Or let's say their lack of mindfulness is expressed as being identified in anger or with anger. That is a normal state. We all know that state. We're all in it most of the time. But now it's time to get to know a different type of state. And in order to know that state, we kind of have to let go of our investment in our stories. Story A, story B, story C. They're all the same. They are basically just saying, here's why I need to suffer. And we take that seriously. The tendency is to take thinking extremely seriously. And if we do that, then it has very serious results. It makes you depressed, it makes you anxious, worried, it gives you panic attacks, it makes you really uneasy, really uncomfortable, and so forth, because we really believe in it. Like a movie has power over you, as long as you don't know it's just a movie. It has a certain power over you. It can make you feel like sick to your stomach. It can make you feel really angry. I think we've all experienced this. Now you've seen a movie and you've experienced real anger, like physical response anger. Faster heartbeat, higher blood pressure, red face, tension in your body. It's unhealthy. But we kind of have no choice because there is no mindfulness. So the same thing is movie A, movie B, movie C, movie... It's just movies. That is what we need to train ourselves to see. And this is very important practice, to actually look through appearances. In order to do that efficiently, you need to train in basic mindfulness. Right now, do you hear the fountain, for example? Do you hear the birds outside? Do you feel your body? Are you breathing? How do you feel right now? What's your general kind of state that you're in? Is it comfortable, uncomfortable, impatient, patient, tired, awake? It requires this kind of self-awareness at first, so we need to train that, to see ourselves. But this is something we generally don't know how to do, because we are very good at looking at objects. We're looking at appearances, things that appear to us. My emotions, my thoughts. Huh? What is it? Oh, there is some money that someone lost? It just was in the front? Maybe you can just put it there. Okay. So can you become aware of your current state? How it is like? whatever it is, it doesn't matter. We're not so much interested in the content, in what is it like compared to and so forth, but actually in just becoming aware the way it is right now. So I'm feeling like this. Maybe you're really angry or you're really happy. Can you see it as a first step? And then can you allow it? Find some space around it. Just simply acknowledge, yes, it is like this. And I'm now giving it some space. I'm not in resistance to it anymore. I'm allowing it. And then gradually notice what happens to that state if you give it more space. If you're not fighting it anymore internally, if you're opening up to it. And then the third step is find out what it is that opens up to it. Like, let's say you have some anger, you see the anger, you're opening up to the anger, you're giving it space. Doesn't that imply that you are not the anger? Because otherwise, how could you give it space? How could you see it? How could it be something that appears to you if you were it? First step, realize the way it is. Thinking. Here in Peter's case, future making, past making. Maybe make the thinking as simple as possible. You can just mention it to yourself in one single word. Thinking. Sometimes it helps to just call it by its name. Like an exorcist needs the name of the demon to exorcise it, you can speak out the name of the demon that's haunting you, and in that case it is thinking. And we go from being totally possessed by the demon to I'm haunted by the demon to I am seeing the demon, I'm knowing it, to I'm letting go of it. That's the transition. So by being completely possessed by the demon of thought, we are there feeling as if we were the voice in our head. Oh my God, why me? Why not someone else? Will this ever stop? It feels like it's you talking. That is complete possession. You don't know it's the demon's voice, it's not your voice. Now you need to train yourself to wake up. Well, next time, when I feel pain, maybe that's the indication. When you feel stress, when you feel pain, when you feel uncomfortable, that's how you know, I've been possessed by thinking. So then you step a little bit back, and then it might still feel for a while that you're haunted by thinking. Wow, there is so much thinking, when will it ever stop? Then that goes on for a while, then you start to fight thinking, you start running away from it, you start searching a way out of it, because you still feel that thinking is a threat to you. You still don't really know yourself yet. So thinking appears as if it was something that could seriously injure you. Keep looking into it. Just thinking, just thinking, just thinking. And gradually you start waking up out of this kind of dream-like haze into more clarity, and you start to see, wait a second. Yeah, it's just thinking. There is nothing to it at all. Now there's some degree of wakefulness already. You're not totally lost in it anymore. You're having some leverage. And so This is the point where you start to see thinking. You're not haunted by it anymore. You're seeing it. And then the seeing becomes a very powerful tool. Then all you need to do is look at it. And it will fall into 1,000 pieces. It can't sustain itself because you are not the thinker anymore. The demon loses its host. You're not hosting it anymore. Instead, you're becoming open space, and open space cannot be possessed, it cannot be owned, and it cannot be haunted. So you're becoming more spacious over time, and that demon of thought more and more becomes revealed as not being a demon at all, but just nothing really, just thinking. No problem at all, really. There's nothing there, it's not truth. It could be anything that you're thinking. Literally, there's infinite possibilities of what you could be thinking in your head right now. Why limit yourself to only that one possibility? So we see it's just thinking. It could be anything, and then you relax more as a result. Thinking has less and less control over you. And as thinking loses its grip over you, you're freeing yourself from thinking. That is letting go. You clearly realize in this moment that I am not what is thinking. Thinking is not me, it is not mine, it is just thinking. That's great freedom. But for most of us, we're completely possessed by it. So it's a very remote idea. It feels like very distant, like, it's very far away. I wonder if I can ever get there. There it is. That's thinking. Can you catch it? What does your mind say next? What kind of sentences come up next in your head? Can you realize them for what they are? Just bubbles of conditioning, the talk of society, media, parents, upbringing, past, future. Worries, the talk of fear, the talk of anxiety, the talk of happiness, the talk of love, the talk of attachment, the talk of desire. Can you see it for what it is? And if you can see it for what it is, you can let go. It doesn't have any power over you anymore. Because you discover yourself as being completely devoid of any center. Just open space. Just presence. Being in itself. This is independent of how your body moves, how you look like, what you do, where you are, who you're surrounded by. Is completely independent. There is something inside of you that doesn't require any time. Can you sense it? Can you feel it? Something about you, it doesn't take time right now. What is it? Because for the mind everything takes time, doesn't it? The mind feels I'm not done yet. I need to do more. And it will feel that in 20 years' time, 40 years' time. I'm not done yet. I need to do some more so I can be more myself. It's a trap. It's bait. Do you bite? Do you really listen to your mind? Do you believe it deeply? Do you think what is talked about in your head is the truth? Do you think the voices in your head are who you are? That's the deception. If you can go beyond that, illusions will break. And with it, suffering breaks. Suffering cannot be sustained in that space. Fear cannot be sustained in that space because there is no future. Fear can only live if there is future for it to breathe. No future? What are you waiting for? Sometimes people come to the retreat, they ask me a question. I had this idea today, I want to put a little paper on the table that says, ask as if you are going to die in 1 hour. Because most people, they ask questions as if they are going to live forever. And they have to still do so many things. So when practicing meditation, when asking questions, ask as if you are going to die in 1 hour. Make sure it matters. If you're living your life, live as if you're going to pass away in 1 hour. Make sure you are here. You are ready, you are open for it. Because otherwise we just keep continuing to live in this kind of haze. Oh, I need to get out of here, I need to get somewhere else, I still need to constantly fogged over in our mind. No clarity, no beingness, no power. The wind goes left, you go left. The wind goes right, you go right. No stability, no center. So this is, for me, all about recognizing what it is really that is going on. Sure, we can find answers to every particular story, like probably your dad did this because he didn't know better and so forth. We can do that, but it will not solve the problem. We'll keep it alive for a little longer. I've mentioned it last time, and I really like that, what I saw. I saw a video about the Sedona method. Don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's like a little method of investigation. And so there's this guy who was asking another person to think about something that makes them feel afraid, or any emotion that they're dealing with currently that they don't like. Any negative emotion. Then he would ask 3 questions. The first question is, now feel it. He would at first say, feel this emotion, and then he would ask, could you let go of it? Could you? Yes or no? That's already a very challenging question, isn't it? Could you stop hurting yourself? To formulate it differently, could you stop inflicting pain on yourself now? Could you? Yes. People answered relatively fast. Everyone said yes. Now the second question was, would you let go of it? And then people took a lot of time to answer. Would you let go of it? And people hesitated. Even it's so painful, they felt like they were not ready to let go of it. Something inside them must have told them, no, I must suffer it a bit longer because it's important. And that's the ego, that's the self. It wants to stay alive a little bit longer. And if you challenge it with the question, would you kindly die right now? And of course it hesitates. Yeah. Who am I without my problems? That's the question it has. And so it doesn't know who it is without its problems. Me and my problems. We and our problems. It's perpetuating, isn't it? And then the third question, another genius question. As soon as they said yes, I would let go of it, The final question is, when? How much longer would you like to stay in a state of suffering? And all it takes is letting go of your thoughts. Once you do that, there is no problem. Life is just fine. The universe has always been just fine, even without you managing it. This is the big mystery of every deep spiritual tradition that is honest, straightforward, to the point. Can you let go of playing God? Me and my life. I need to fix this, and then I need to become that, and then another. That's the demon in the mind portraying itself as a little god. Almost like Satan, the fallen angel. It is in your mind, it is behind your eyes, it is looking out into the world and looking for what could it fix. What could it get? What does it need to get rid of? It's constantly at war with this moment. And by that it inflicts pain and suffering on ourselves, stress, and on other people, all around us. If you can let go of that voice by disempowering it, see, it's just a voice. It's not who you are. You free yourself. You empower yourself. You liberate yourself from suffering right there on the spot. Now it's only a matter of repeating it sufficiently and resting in that state, in that liberated state. Stay out of prison. There's a great tendency to come back in, particularly for those who have set foot outside. There will be a great pull to come back on the inside. Come get lost a little bit more. It's almost like, come on, hit the snooze button. Sleep a little bit more. You need to suffer a bit more. You will discover for yourself. You can see this very clearly in good meditation practice. All right, so deep stuff today. I hope in any point that this was helpful for Pete. Dear Pete, just let go of the words and you'll be fine. That's a promise. Okay? So I think that's good enough for today.